This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any?
Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Come on, baby, let me thrill your soul. Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Roll.
It's Hump Day, folks.
Come on,
And
baby.
this is the National Streaming Sports Professional show that we put on every Wednesday night for you. Glad to have you aboard. My name is Mac. I'm one of your hosts, and a few more hosts will also be coming in here pretty soon. We'll have CJ, the Painkiller, J Train, James Martin, and Keith Angle will be coming in the show here in a little bit. Thank you for joining us tonight. Of course, this is your, as I said, 6 p.m. edition on the Roku channel of Northeast Streaming Sports. So I want to get into the NBA a little bit. I'll have James Martin in here who will be talking a little bit more about the NBA. CJ Stroud will be hitting us with the NHL. And Keith Angle, the host of TGI Sports Talk, knows a lot about sports, period. So he'll be able to comment on all this stuff. And I want to begin with the Los Angeles Lakers. The last 4 coaches or so, 3 out of 4 of them, the Lakers, the second biggest, or you could argue the first biggest high-profile basketball team in NBA history. They decided out of 3 of the last 4 coaches to hire somebody with no coaching experience. So their latest hire, JJ Redick, fits the profile. Not an assistant coach anywhere. Even high school or college, he didn't coach. I think they said he coached youth sports and basketball at one time. An NBA analyst, played the game, a very good basketball player. Not one of the greatest of all time. No, he's not in the class of a Larry Bird or anything like that, who went on to coach the Indianapolis Pacers, but a very good player. And he's walking into a team that's led by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Now, LeBron James, of course, he's not in the prime of his career, but he is still a very, very good NBA player. He's still going to get you 25 points a game. He's still going to lead that team as he brings it up the court. And, of course, you got Anthony Davis, who last year, and let me welcome in CJ, the Painkiller. How you doing tonight, CJ?
Good to see you, Mac.
Excellent. Before we get into hockey, I wanted to talk a little bit about JJ Redick getting the head coaching job at the Lakers with no coaching experience at all as far as college, NBA, not an assistant coach anywhere. And he's taking over one of the most prestigious NBA franchises in NBA history. They're only one game championship game series win behind the Boston Celtics, which, of course, you could say is number 1 or number 2. And he was a very good player. You know, as I said before he came in, he's no Larry Bird. Larry Bird took over the Indiana Pacers, had limited success. He's not a Larry Bird. He's not a legend of the game by any means. And being an NBA analyst and podcaster, what he said at a press conference was that is what prepared him to be the head coach of the Lakers. And I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, does being a podcaster and an analyst in any sport, even if you are a former player, is that going to prepare you to take over a franchise like the Los Angeles Lakers?
No, not at all. because regardless of whatever experience that you may have as a player or as a podcaster or as a broadcaster, coaching is an entirely different animal. And the thing is that when you coach, you have to have the ability to be able to teach other players. And even though you are coaching professionals and you have your whole bench of little businesses that are running around on the court, you still need to have some sort of coaching experience, whether it's Pee-wee, whether it's high school, whether it's college or whatever. I mean, this JJ Redick is coming in as a former player with literally no experience.
Right.
So for me, I think the challenge is going to be, do you have the ability and the patience to be able to teach the message that you're trying to get across? Because it's one thing to be a player's coach. It's one thing to sit up there and you want to curse at a press conference and, you want to try to act like you're one of the guys and try to relive your playing days when you were in the NBA and you want to live vicariously through your players. But it's another thing when now you are expected to be the leader and you are expected to lead a team and have a group of men follow you when they have no idea if they can even count on you. They have no idea what you have to teach them, if they feel like they can learn anything from you at all. And I just have a feeling that this could end up being a completely combustible situation. Now, that being said, let's go to the flip side of the coin. JJ Redick, a fresh face, very passionate about the game of basketball, loves the game of basketball, a student of the game of basketball. Okay, so he does bring a relative wealth of knowledge to that coaching room. But again, like I previously stated, do you have the ability to teach it? Because you could have all the knowledge in the world, but if you are a horrible teacher, the knowledge is not going to do it's not going to do you any good, and it's not going to do your players any good because you don't have the ability to teach it.
CJ, let's not breeze over where he's going and who he's coaching either. He's coaching one of the greatest basketball players in the history of the game, LeBron James, who's gotten 7 out of his last, well, let's say he hasn't gotten, but 7 out of his last head coaches have been fired for one reason or another. And you have a very high paid basketball team. Anthony Davis last year was his first year that he was not injured for a good part of the season. And so these are your two main pieces there. The rest of the team has really not come together and played as a team to finish in the top 6, to not be in the play-in. So to me, he's in a lose-lose situation. If he went to, say, the Detroit Pistons or a team like that, has no expectations of going to a finals like the Lakers and the Celtics will have every year almost, maybe he fits in there. Maybe he can talk to the kids. Maybe he can get them going. But you're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James still being the main part of that team.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is like I said, LeBron James is probably going to look at it and he's going to look at JJ Redick and say, what is it that you could teach me? What is it that you bring to the table that I'm going to feel like that's going to be a benefit? Because a player of LeBron's stature, and let's call it what it is. Let's address the elephant in the room. There are players in the NBA that feel like they are above coaching. LeBron James is one of those players. And I'm sorry, there will probably be a bunch of people that will probably fight me on this. And you know what? Go right ahead. But LeBron has not shown me personally anything that he has the ability to be receptive to coaching, to be receptive to criticism, to be receptive to being able to be taught something that maybe he does not know. Or maybe he thinks he knows, but doesn't know whatever. Now, mind you, I'm just talking about LeBron. Okay. There could be other players on the team that could honestly benefit from a JJ Redick being a head coach. I don't think that LeBron James will be one of them because I feel like that there would be more strife between the two of them because JJ is looking to make a name for himself, trying to break into the coaching ranks and trying to do something that's probably never been done before. But you have an uphill battle when you have a player that just is probably not going to listen to you. Now, I could be 100% wrong. I could think that welcome Keith Engel, and I can't wait to get your thoughts on this as we're discussing. Plus, I got something from baseball that I want to run by you. But getting back to LeBron James and JJ Redick, the question is whether or not JJ Redick has the ability to teach LeBron James something that he doesn't know. And can LeBron James be receptive to that coaching and actually be one of these players that want to be coached, that is going to be receptive to that different voice in the locker room? So that's the $64,000 question, Mac. So,
Keith, as I was telling CJ before he came on, if JJ Redick went to the Detroit Pistons, say, a team that needs work, that needs somebody, he was a good, very good player. Good analyst, but coaching is a totally different thing, right? You've got to be able, as CJ said, teach players something. I don't know what he teach LeBron James. LeBron James could probably teach him a thing or two if I was to be totally honest about this. And going to the Lakers, a historically great franchise, top two, them and the Celtics. Pick one. They're both among the best in the history of the NBA. What is JJ Redick? What can he bring to the table there?
Well, Austin Reeves says he's a genius. So maybe more than we think. I don't know. I think he might be kissing up to the coach a little bit. But listen, we saw this experiment not work in Brooklyn here not too long ago. If I remember right, Steve Nash had no coaching experience, and they threw him in with a bunch of superstars, and we saw how that worked out. I think this is a recipe for disaster myself. I think they'd be better off with somebody who's going to have a stronger hand. And I don't think he's got anything to teach LeBron either. I mean, LeBron's been around for how long? I mean, gosh, can he help some of the younger guys? Maybe, sure. But and again, there's another potential distraction heading their way if they, in fact, take Bronny with their second pick tomorrow night. We'll see if that's the rumor, is that 55th pick is going to be Bronny. We'll see. And that just adds another whole level of distraction for a first-year head coach who's with no coaching experience. So I think this is a tough spot for JJ Redick, but he wanted it.
I agree. We'll stay with the NBA a little bit here and talk about, because Keith is a big Knicks fan, and of course CJ's from New York. So, but the biggest news yesterday or this morning was the big trade to acquire Michael Bridges from the Nets for 25, 27, 29, and 31 first-round draft picks. So the Knicks get their 2 first-round draft picks. Another guy from Villanova who won the championships with him, 6'6" wingman, can go to the hoop, can shoot from the outside, plays great defense. I mean, CJ and Keith, the Knicks have just got a step closer to the Celtics with this move.
I love this move, actually. I mean, did they overpay a little bit? Sure. I mean, he's probably not worth that. He's not a superstar on the level of some of the other guys that might garner that type of haul. But the Knicks are in it to win now, not in 29 and 30. So I don't care. I'm all in. I think they did a great job because the Celtics wings are so good. I think that was an important part here. Now, we're not done yet because they got to bring OG back. It's still very important. I think they bring OG back, and this very well might cost them any chance of bringing Hartenstein back. But I don't think the cap's going to be an issue either. They've got the Bird exemption on OG, so they can go over the cap without penalty there. Bringing Hartenstein back would probably put them into that second level, which, while not the end of the world, really hinders you from making trades later on after that, because you don't have that mid-level exemption anymore next year, let's say, and you also can only include one player in every trade. So it kind of it restricts you a bit, but this team would be loaded for bear if they could come back and bring OG and Hartenstein back to this group. You're adding Julius Randle back to this group. I think this is a really good. And as you said, he can play. He can defend every position on the court almost, and they like that flexibility. And maybe this is the new trend. You know, the big three was the trend for a while, right? Maybe it's get all these guys who played college ball together is going to be the new trend in the NBA if the Knicks make this work next year. I like the trade. A lot of people. I do.
I do too. And CJ, that's the new GM, the new president, Leon Rose over there, making these moves. It's been a long time since the Knicks were aggressive, going after quality players. I mean, Patrick Ewing pretty much played by himself his whole career. Even later on with the Knicks, you know, you had Bernard King pretty much played by himself for them. And now just getting a new president there that's trying to improve the Knicks, taking a unique step, like he said, bringing a college championship team together in the pros who all like each other. You know, the chemistry is there. First time I've ever heard anything like this, but I think it's a pretty good plan, CJ.
Well, this is a story that's been dominating New York sports radio pretty much for the majority of the day, how the Knicks took a huge step forward. And, you know, now if they can get, you know, the other guy that they have on the team who's there signed, and they want to bring in a couple of other role players, you know, depending upon what their cap situation looks like, that they're trying to build this team to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Boston Celtics. Because you basically saw that the Boston Celtics did not have to build a super team in order for them to go in and win an NBA championship. And I think that Leon Rose is trying to do it sort of the way that Boston has done it, whereas smart drafting, smart free agent signings, you build a team around one or two superstars who can be here for a few years and try to achieve what I always preach on my show, which is two words: competitive sustainability.
Yeah, I agree. And go ahead, Keith.
Real quick, you were talking about new president. You know, I was on Leon Rose has been around a while now. He's been here 4 or 5 years probably. And I was getting on Leon Rose for the inability to make these kind of moves. He really couldn't get the big players to come here. Remember, the really first big guy he brought in here was Brunson. And at the time, we didn't think he was going to be as good as he is. Nobody thought he was going to be what he is. And they couldn't get, you know, Mitchell in here, but not. Then he traded for OG last year. He traded for Hart the year before. So he's been making the moves that a lot of people like myself were critical of the first 3.5 years of his regime here. But now he's starting to, maybe he had a plan all along. So he's starting to redeem himself. Now they got to go out and win.
Well, he did build up a lot of draft picks is what he did over those many years. I mean, he's got first round draft picks from here till 2050, for God's sakes. And yeah, the Knicks did surrender 5 first round picks for one player, Thomas. But, I mean, are these 5 first round picks going to be, you know, are they going to be a Michael Jordan? Are they going to be something like that? I think that both teams made out here. The Nets are tearing down. They're rebuilding. This is what they need to do. The Knicks have 2 first round picks. They could either draft or they could package those and get somebody else. And you know, and you still have every other year, you still got a first round draft pick. And I guarantee you they'll build up draft picks again. And if you aren't using these draft picks to get better players, I think you're making a mistake. I really do. I mean, if you want to build a championship team, you're not going to do it through the draft and do it right away. It's not going to happen. OKC if OKC had veteran players, Keith, this year to go along with their good rookies, they might have made a run.
I agree 100%. And this isn't I mean, I can understand how people are going to see this because you don't trade 5 first round draft picks for a guy who's not, I mean, he's not a Hall of Fame level player right now. And he wasn't that good with the Nets the last year, maybe 2 years, but he was really good with Phoenix when he was the third option. When they made him the number 1 guy in Brooklyn, it was a bad fit for him. It was a bad fit for the Nets. It wasn't a good team to begin with. They're in win now mode. This is all about beating the Celtics, as CJ said. And all of these guys are in the prime of their career. It's not like they're going to be signed for, assuming they bring OG OG back, which I really think is important. These guys are all signed for a while. You're not going to need the draft for the next 4 years.
Right. This is where I kind of disagree with Tommy's comment, and I get the angst because it's a first round pick. But look,
Right, I get that.
if you know the Knicks are making it to the Eastern Conference Finals and possibly the NBA Finals on a regular basis over the next 2 to 3 years because of this deal, you're going to be picking what? You're going to be picking 28th, 29th, or whatever. This isn't the NFL where your first round picks are like a gold bar and you have to treat them with kid gloves. You know, it's like you're lucky if maybe the first top 10 picks are ready to play and contribute right out of the gate. So everything else is just like a dart on the board. It's the same thing with the NHL draft. So, you know, where like I get the angst where Tommy is coming from. And maybe if this was the NFL, he would have a legitimate point. But because it's the NBA and such the bottom half of the first round is such a crapshoot, I think it's like playing with house money.
Look, if I get a championship out of this, I haven't won since 1973.
Right.
I was a 13-year-old boy who thought this team was going to be good forever, and they haven't been any good most years since then. Well, I shouldn't say any good, but a lot of bad years and no championships, and I'm okay if this brings back one or maybe it'll bring back multiple championships, and then you have a down period because I don't have draft picks. I'm okay with that. This team needs to win and win now, so I'm okay.
Well, good.
While I'm alive.
Good evening to Ralph. Glad to have you with us, Stephen and Mark. I don't know if we all hate the Dodgers or not, but I'm not a big fan of them. Anyway.
Mark Mancini lives in LA and hates everything in LA. He's from Pittsburgh. He hates everything in LA.
Okay. So, again, I want to get to the NHL with CJ. Let's finish up with the NBA. The draft, of course, is tonight, 8 o'clock. And surprisingly enough, we have 3 players from France that are projected to go in the top 10. 2 UConn players projected to go in the top 10. They're not sure what Atlanta is going to do. Everything's pointing for Atlanta to go with Francis Zachary, a forward, followed by a 7'1" player. Wizards are supposedly picking him up, Alex Starr, and again, another France guy is supposed to be taken in the top 10. Klingman, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, because you probably know better than me. I think it's Stefan Castle are projected for UConn to go in the top 10 also. Biggest surprise, and CJ, you know this as well as I do. Normally, if you're the best, get a trophy for the best college player in college basketball, you're normally in the top 10. I don't see Zach Edey anywhere in that listing. And even maybe to 16, 18, I've even heard he might fall to the Knicks at 24.
15 is as high as I heard, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's a guy who carried Purdue on his back to the championship. I know he's old-time center. I know he's that's his style. He may not be the greatest athlete in the world, but the guy will give you rebounds. He can score down low. He'll guard the rim. I mean, he would be a good player almost on any team. Why is it because of the athleticism? What do you think, CJ? Is it because he's not athletic, or is it just, I don't know, he doesn't have a three-point shot maybe? I don't know.
It could be a couple of different things. If there's anything like, look, I have no idea about this player, but I could tell you one thing in regards to draft stock. And again, it's going off of what you have in the NFL. No, I have no idea what the NBA draft process is. If they actually have a combine and they meet with people and they interview and, they go and they try different things, or they have them do different reps or different exercises or whatever. What's up, J Train? Welcome to the show. As far as that is concerned, if there's any type of injury history, or maybe there's some sort of a discipline problem, or maybe he doesn't interview well, that could also be the reason for his draft stock dropping. But it could also be that maybe your top 10 or top 15 players are looking for a particular prototype player, and he just does not fit that mold. And when you don't fit that mold, you're not going to try to force a square peg into a round hole, which subsequently will end up him falling in draft position as well too. So it's a number of factors, Mac.
I agree with that. And Keith, I kind of gave people I don't think I gave him a hard time, but I kind of said Zach Edey's, an old time center. Yeah, he'd be maybe a very good player at best. I don't think he's going to be a all-star. I don't think. He could prove me wrong, and that's great. But you seem to like Zach Edey a lot. And if the Knicks could move up against Zach Edey, who cares about Hartstein anymore? You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's one reason that he's not going to get drafted higher. And I do like Zach Edey. He's a great college player. Defense. He can't play defense in the NBA. He's not athletic enough. He's not fast enough. But he will be a very good role player in the NBA with, in limited minutes. Will he be an all-star? Probably not. But could he be an important cog to a team? Yeah. If he's used the right way and gets in the right system. But defense is what's going to hurt him in this league because he is an old-time center, and there aren't that many guys in the league that are playing the center position the way he does anymore.
Yes. So we got James Martin makes it in, and we're pretty much done with the draft. But I want to get your thoughts on this year, James. I mean, we went over. France has got three teams, three players in the top 10 projected to go in. 2 UConn players in there, Kentucky player. I mean, to me, the NBA draft is not as big as the NFL draft. I mean, they can come in and start right away in certain circumstances. So what do you have a dark horse? I mean, is there somebody nobody's talking about? And they are talking about Bronny James, so please don't say him. But is there any NBA draftee that you think might, come out and have unbelievable first year or first couple of years?
It's funny, the guy that you guys were just talking about out of UConn, Purdue, I think he actually if he goes to the right team, he's been projected to go to the Lakers at 18, Zach. And he's 7'4". He's a pretty big guy, man. I agree with Keith that he's old school. He's a different type of player, but he can come in handy defensively next to AD. AD is the guy that could. I mean, if AD can go to his true position at power forward, and this guy will play naturally at center, I'd say formidably, the Lakers might be a little bit better because they seem to can't play against a guy like Jokic, Nikola Jokic, because he seems to just dominate in all facets of the game in all areas, even the 3-point range. He's just impressive. But to have someone next to AD is a defensive prowess player himself. But to have a guy like Edey next to him, to give him a break, to allow him not to have to play center, I think that will allow AD to thrive more in his natural position at power forward. So to me, he would be a sneaky move right there when I saw some mock drafts, and I was impressed with that. But the other guys, this is not really – it's not a great draft like the past couple of drafts that you've seen. It's Wemby was that just made everything different, and now it's just like a drop off the cliff now. Although you have other guys coming from France, like Keith said, it's not a huge spark. I mean, Reed out of Kentucky, it's going to be a good player, I think. The Klingham, the guy out of UConn, I think he'll be pretty good. I'm not seeing a lot of players. What do you think, Keith? I mean, do you think this is a great draft or just an okay draft?
It's an okay draft, and you don't get the hype because we don't know the guys. I mean, you mentioned the guys from France, but Mac, but 5 of the top 10 could possibly be guys who didn't play college basketball last year. They played in France. One's played in Serbia. 2 of them played with the Ignite. So we don't know who these guys are. That's why you don't have that hype. But I'll give you a name to watch that's been moving up the draft boards, and that's Ryan Dunn from Virginia. If he falls to the Knicks, he's perfect for the Knicks because Tom Thibodeau loves that type of player, like Josh Hart, very, very versatile. And he'd be a guy that could help the Knicks off the bench maybe right away. We'll see. Ryan Dunn from Virginia, 6'6". And he's 21 years old, too. He's not a kid. Like a lot of these guys are still kids.
I hear you. And you know, I again, and then we have free agency coming right after that. You know, I guess a lot of the draft might be affected, maybe not a lot, but the draft will be affected by the free agency too. As I said, Knicks got two first-round draft picks that they may not need. So they may throw their hat in.
I got Ryan Dunn falling to the Knicks at 25.
I like that. That'd be great if he does, I'll tell you.
All right. Okay. So pretty much that's it. That's it for our NBA. We already talked about JJ Redick, probably going to be in over his head with the Lakers, going to coach a LeBron team with not a lot of upside. I mean, you got AD, yes, and then LeBron, who may be there, may not be there. Bronny James may come. That would just throw some more stuff his way and totally drive him out of his mind. And again, to coach LeBron, I think you have to be a very knowledgeable coach, you know, that has been around for a while, that may be able to tell him a couple things. I don't think JJ Redick's going to be able to really tell LeBron too much. So that's where we're at right there as far as the NBA goes. So I want to jump into the NHL. We didn't review the championship game yet here as far as at nighttime. It was interesting to me that Edmonton drives it to Game 7, CJ, and they did it by big offense. And Florida's defense looked like it disappeared, right? The goalie was having problems. The defense is letting Edmonton skate all over them. And at the end of the game, Edmonton, for 5 minutes, was making shots on their defense, and the goalie and defense of Florida stepped up. And so, to me, again, goes to show the goalie will win the game, and good defense beats offense no matter what sport, really. And what are your thoughts on how Florida handled that 7th game and how great Edmonton really did play to push it to 7 games?
Well, I have to make this comment, and I don't know if anybody caught my okay, give you guys a shameless plug. My sitting in for Sonia Pearson last night on Prim and Proper Sports. I went on a complete and utter tirade in regards to the Stanley Cup Final, Connor McDavid winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, and I'll give you guys a taste. But let's talk about Game 7 a little bit. The Florida Panthers the Florida Panthers got very lucky at just past the 5-minute mark. Okay, when there was a scrum in front of the net, Sam Bennett lays on the goal line. Bobrovsky doesn't have a goalie stick, and he is basically flat on his stomach. And Ekholm finds a way to poke the puck through and into the net. And the Panthers benefited from a quick whistle when the puck was in plain sight. So that game should have been tied 2-2 at that point. So, and you pretty much knew right after that, and then shortly after that, there was the sequence with Connor McDavid trying to get a tip in, and he just was maybe just a millimeter off, where he just couldn't get enough of it on to get it past Bobrovsky. That's where you knew where Edmonton was just running out of magic. But honestly, Edmonton scoring 2 minutes and 17 seconds right after Florida took a 1-0 lead, it quieted the building down. And then in the second period, you kind of felt things start to shift the way that Florida was starting to gain more offensive zone time. They were they caught the Edmonton Oilers on a bad spot. You know, you had the defenseman sitting right there. I mean, Cody Ceci had the pass locked up. You know, at that point, I think Kulak or whoever it was who was right next to Cody Ceci should have just absolutely just dropped down and blocked Sam Reinhart's shot. He should not have been given that kind of time and that kind of space to make that shot. where he's going to score 10 times out of 10. And that was pretty much just the game came down to one bad defensive play by Edmonton, where, as far as I was concerned, and I didn't have a dog in the fight, probably one of the most enjoyable game sevens that I've seen in a very, very long time in the NHL. So,
Yeah. Can I ask CJ a question? If I'm not mistaken, and maybe I'm wrong, and I did watch this game and I was distracted a little bit, but it felt like Edmonton didn't have the sense of urgency in the third period that I thought they'd have. I feel like they had like 5 shots on goal. I could be wrong.
in the third period, actually, believe it or not, Florida did not register a shot on goal for almost 9.5 minutes.
Florida, okay.
And Edmonton actually had outshot them in that period, something like ridiculous 10 to nothing ratio. So I mean, they were getting looks, they were getting opportunities. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Sergei Bobrovsky. He played his ass off in this game, and he deserved to get the win.
Yeah.
But he got a lot of help from defensemen blocking shots, from forwards blocking shots. Guys getting in behind Bobrovsky when he was out of position. And just basically just bad puck luck on Edmonton's side. But, if you go and take a look at the ice time for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman, I think out of a 20-minute period, I think they played 16 of those 20 minutes. I mean, their ice time was utterly just ridiculous, where Chris Knobloch was shortening the bench to basically he was rolling 2 lines out there.
Gotcha.
And then with the last 5 minutes of the game, it was all Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Zach Hyman. And he was basically just rotating his first and second defensive units out there.
So CJ, real quick, you said you had a problem with Connor McDavid winning the MVP award.
No. I had zero problem with Connor McDavid winning the MVP.
Okay, I agree with you. Very rare that happens, but he was the best player in the playoffs.
Right.
And it's
the thing,
right? See, it's about the whole playoff, not championship series, right?
Yes, exactly. This is the thing that a lot of people don't understand, and this is what really got me aggravated, was there was a lot of public outcry that they felt that Sergei Bobrovsky should have been awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy. I disagree, because the beauty of the Conn Smythe Trophy is not who is the best player in the Stanley Cup Finals. It is accumulation from day one of when the NHL playoffs start to when the playoffs end. That is the beauty of the Conn Smythe Trophy. And that is what sets the NHL apart from the NBA, from the NFL, from Major League Baseball. Because their MVP trophy is so hard to win. And plus, on top of it, you have a league's most valuable player during the regular season, and you have your Conn Smythe Trophy, which is your league's most valuable player in the playoffs. So, in essence, you have whoever it is who would win, who probably is going to end up winning the NHL version of the MVP. I can't remember if it's like the Hart Trophy or whatever, because they have so many different names for so many different trophies. But this is the beauty of the NHL playoffs, where you have an award singularly for whoever it is who stands out for the Conn Smythe. Now, if you want to make an argument for Sergei Bobrovsky, yes, 100%. You can also make an argument for Igor Shesterkin, for Stuart Skinner, for Marty Necas, for Sam Reinhart. I mean, there's about 10 to 15 players that you could honestly make an argument for if we're going to talk about it. But the main factor was Connor McDavid carried Edmonton straight on through to the Stanley Cup Finals without Connor McDavid doing what he did, playing 2 Game 7s in this playoff series throughout the entire playoffs. Edmonton does not make the finals. It does not.
I agree. I agree. I agree, CJ, and me and Jack talked about today and this morning, and we had no problem with him winning it either. So I want to get to something, and this may sound a little controversial, or maybe a little. It's sure not politically correct, right? You have the NHL, the Hall of Fame
love
inductees.
controversy here
Two
on
players
the show.
that really the two that led the way, Joe Roenick and of course the Tusik, Pavel Tusik, the Magic Man, both worthy. Both were great scorers, great players, NHL top 10s. Where I get to have a problem, and this happens in different sports, including the NHL. When you're gonna put women in with the men, if they deserve it, I'm all for it. But because they go to 2 Olympics playing other ladies' teams, I don't know if that is fitting for them to go to a Hall of Fame. They do it in boxing. Jack goes crazy about this because there's really not that much competition, and there's really not that much to go by. But if you're going to include them in a Hall of Fame that has Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Bobby Orr, I can go on and on with, especially the older hockeys when I really followed it. But if you're going to put women in the Hall of Fame with these guys, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I mean, I think we're going so far the other way that we have to put them in because they're women and they were good in 2 Olympics. And I know some people may have a hard time with this. I'm just saying, you're comparing, and they do it in the NBA with WNBA players too, and in boxing they're starting to do it too. I'm just saying, they have their own little section like they do in other sports, but when they're getting inducted with NHL inductees that have been like the 13th all-time scorer in the history of hockey, it kind of rubs me a little bit. And I'm not going to go to CJ first because I think CJ may agree with me. So I want to go to the couple of guys that are a little bit more moderate. I'm going to go to the liberal on the show. I'm going to go to J-Train first.
That's not me.
J-Train, I know.
Wow.
I know J-Train is going to disagree with me.
So you're going to me first?
You stunned him. You
You're
stunned.
up.
J-Train.
Okay,
He's
so
stunned. He's speechless. He doesn't know what to say.
no, let me say this. I am not. I'm going to agree with you. I would prefer that if you play sports separately, you should have separate rewards, separate Hall of Fame, whatever it may be. It should be separate. It should. I mean, I'm all for inclusion in life, but I think that this is different. I mean, because once you start opening slippery slope, you start. I mean, we're talking about going into letting transgender swim on collegiate teams and causing problems for, birth-given females. I mean, I think you remember that situation in Michigan or wherever that was, where the former male swimmer who was average was obliterating records, because of what he. So, I mean, what are we going to do now? I mean, that's totally unfair, and so. This would be unfair to those that have, like you said, those greats that have their whole, they have the numbers, the records, they have all this other kind of stuff. You should have a separate entity for that. Like, I think for the transgender, you should have a separate entity, a sporting category for them. So you should do the same for men and women as well. I mean, regardless of whether people think it's fair or not, I think that will be totally fair to have it separate but equal. I mean, just different. It's different. Yeah. How do you? I think it's not fair to those that worked hard and done what they've done and posted the numbers. I mean, it's like football. Like, you got the Hall of Fame. Why would I totally disagree with the kick returner making it to the Hall of Fame in front of a whole bunch of other guys that are more deserving to get that slot that have been waiting for decades to get into the Hall of Fame, and you got Devin Hester getting in because he's done some things, maybe made a few more touchdowns than other kick returners. I
Joe
just think
Flacco.
Interesting. That's an
but,
interesting.
okay,
that's
that's
interesting
my
take.
take on it.
That's an interesting take, Keith. Maybe you'll be the most liberal here. I don't know, because I don't know if I agree with everything James said, but I do think it. And I'll give you an example. Jack is a Hall of Fame boxing writer, been around boxing for 50-something years. Is the president right now of the New York State Hall of Fame. Was the president of the National Boxing Writers Association of America for 6 terms. He has to look up the female boxers to find out who they are that are projected inductees into the Hall of Fame. Now, this is not that bad. I mean, we know that they won 2 Olympic golds, these females that went in there. But I mean, are they worthy to be in the same room as the hockey greats of all time?
It's funny because I will come. There's very few people I know less politically correct than me most of the time, or conservative. John DeLon, who just came up here, will disagree because he's from the South. He thinks all us Yankees are very liberal, which we're not, by the way. But I'm not sure I can get on board. Now, to put them in just for the sake of putting them in, I don't agree. This isn't the NHL Hall of Fame, correct? This is the Hockey Hall of Fame. Am I right or wrong? I just want to make sure because I'm not positive we're talking about.
From what I read, CJ, it's the NHL Hall of Fame inductees.
Then it's totally wrong if it's the NHL. If it's the Hockey Hall, just like the Basketball Hall of Fame here in Springfield is not the NBA Hall of Fame. It's college, it's NBA, it's women, it's men. And if they're deserving, they should go. Now, if it's the NBA Hall of Fame, then WNBA players should not be in the NBA Hall of Fame. If it's the NHL Hall of Fame, nobody but NHLers or coaches should be included. If it's the Hockey Hall of Fame, I might have a different opinion. If they've won Olympic gold medals and they've earned their way there, not for the sake of just putting people in. I will never agree with that. But if they've earned their way in, and it's not a specific league's Hall of Fame, then no, they don't belong there. For sure.
All right, so I saved CJ for last. What do you think, CJ?
Well, you guys already know what side of the fence that I'm going to be on. Mac, I'm 100% going to agree with you. And the reason being is because of the fact that you have women in Olympic hockey who have won multiple gold medals. That is a tremendous feat. I'm not knocking that. Okay. Do I feel that it's hockey? Now, if we're talking about all of hockey, that is encompassing Olympic hockey, the National Hockey League, then I would not have a problem with it at all. But because of the fact that it's the NHL Hall of Fame, I agree with Pete there. It is strictly for NHL players, and that is it. Where each league needs to stick to its own players. Now, also that being said, and I'm going to make this comment, which I know is probably going to cause a lot of strife, and I really don't care. But now the criteria in order for people to get into the Hall of Fame has now become so watered down that we may as well just call it the Hall of Participation Trophies. Okay, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're just inducting everybody in. We're giving everybody a participation trophy. If you played, you have a place on the wall.
Don't say that with John DeLon here. Yeah.
and
for an hour and a half after this.
And CJ, you're correct. So I want to get one more thing. In here, NFL wise.
You love it. You know you love it.
Oh, I do. I'm joking because John DeLon, we argue about participation trophies in college football playoffs. That's why he's laughing.
Yes. So let's go to. I mean, we're getting close because these are. We're trying to analyze everything here. So we're trying to break things down a little bit. NFL news: Bugs defensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs is gone because of the charges off the field. Rashard Rice is still there. Of course, it's a big difference. If they think you are going to be possibly somebody that will help the team, like a wide receiver, they're going to keep you. If you're a defensive lineman, unless you're, Jones, you're not. They're going to get rid of you. Okay, they don't want the problems. But I was interested, and everybody has a top 5 list, and I want to get your guys' reaction to this. Now, Jaden Daniels is going to be the rookie quarterback for the Washington Commanders next year, and he put in his top 5 list, his top 5 quarterbacks of all time. So I want to give you his list, and if we have time, we'll discuss, maybe who we think should be on it. Number 1 is Lamar Jackson. He is the number 1 greatest quarterback of all time.
Please don't give me the rest.
He did put in Tom Brady. He did put in Peyton Manning, and he did put and Joe Montana. His 5th pick is probably as interesting as his first. So his 5th greatest quarterback of all time is Michael Vick. So now I get when you grow up watching somebody, you have an admiration, right? I love Joe Kapp for the Minnesota Vikings. The guy ran like a maniac, but he was no greatest quarterback of all time. So if the Washington Commanders are looking for NFL smarts, or a guy that has a great mind about the NFL, they may be in trouble with Jaden Daniels being their starting quarterback next year. Wow. So let me go to J Train. Let me go to James first. James, I mean, we love, and now Patrick Mahomes wasn't mentioned by him either, just to let you know that. So if I understand, you grow up, you watch some players, and you have feelings for them, but if you're going to say a top 5, if you go on record and say this is your top 5, and you put Lamar Jackson number 1, and you've got Michael Vick in the top 5, I think he should start looking at some NFL films or something.
Of course. So this is nothing new. Most of these kids they're not historians. They don't watch film of old players. A lot of them just look at what's, near them, what's like 10 feet in front of them. I would say this is his favorite list, probably who he aspired to be like list. This is but clearly this is not top 5. Greatest quarterback of all time. You got maybe Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in the mix, but there's a huge list of other players. We all know that. I would say that this kid is probably just looking at. We already know what type of dual threat quarterback. He mentioned 2 dual threat quarterbacks in the mix. So, and these are guys that he probably aspired to be like when he was younger as a kid. He probably wore number 7, his jersey when he was young, like Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson. So this is his favorite list. This is not the 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time list. So I guess I give him a pass, and maybe if I'm the coach, I'm going to pull him aside and say, maybe you need to I'm going to give you some encyclopedias. I'm going to give you some football encyclopedias. You go sit down and study these guys, watch them film on people like, John Unitas, people like that. Look back and go a little bit further than your comfort zone. Look all the way back and start looking at some quarterbacks, and then come back and say this list again. This is just a young kid giving a fun list, huh?
And you might, Keith, you might learn a thing or two if you go back and study some films too of some of these quarterbacks like the Dan Marinos and the John Elways and even the Otto Grahams. Listen, I'm making fun of it. And Sunday, I think we'll put together all-time 5 greatest quarterbacks. That's who we think, and it'll be interesting. But Keith, see, to me, the smartest thing you can do as a rookie quarterback is kind of be quiet. C.J. Stroud was quiet last year. I didn't hear too much from C.J. Stroud. And what are your thoughts on that top 5? I got to hear it. I do got to hear it.
Well, it's ridiculous. And James, and you hit on it, and it's unfortunate. Not just athletes, but fans today, they all have their point of reference is when they started watching football or baseball or whatever it is. Well, the game goes back a long time before you guys, and you got to realize, even my own top 5 I'm thinking of in my head, most of them I would come up with would be in my lifetime, but there are guys. Well, most of them are because I'm old, because a lot of the great ones are in my lifetime. But
no, you're not.
You wouldn't think of some of these guys. There's guys when I get to the fourth, to me, there's two guys at the top, and it's Brady and Manning, and then the other guys there's probably 10 guys you could put in the slots below there, and I'll come up with my 5 for you.
Okay.
But yeah, these guys, everybody needs a history lesson in the sport you're going to play. I see this in all the sports, and you need to know. I mean, in baseball, there are guys who don't know why they wear number 42 once a year, every player. I mean, that's really sad.
Yeah, it is. And CJ, I mean, if you could get, you won't be on Sunday's show. If you can give me your top 5 real quick, I'll let you do it. I mean, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than you think.
The top 5 that I remember, and honestly, I'm going back to the 70s, so I'm probably going to be a bit biased. But to me, it would be Joe Montana, would be first.
Number 3.
And then obviously Tom Brady would be second. Peyton Manning would be third. Randall Cunningham would probably be fourth. Mainly because he kind of revolutionized the whole running quarterback type deal and so on. That would probably be the hardest for me, but I would have to put Patrick Mahomes on that top 5.
I would have.
That's a good point.
I mean, yeah. Patrick Mahomes, with more time, a couple more years, if he continues playing the way he's playing, he no doubt's going to crack the top 5. I mean, I could tell you that Otto Graham was one of the best running quarterbacks in the history of football, and maybe even better than Randall Cunningham. But I mean, again, we go what we know. I do a sports memory show on Saturday, so I'm always looking stuff up. But anyway, it's a good top 5. CJ, I mean, I think you hit most of them. Of course, Marino fans and Elway fans will probably call you out on that because I mean, those are two that
that's
in
fine.
that top 5.
Listen,
right?
it's my own personal top 5. Okay, everyone is going to have their own different top 5. Feel free to disagree. I want people to disagree. I don't want people to agree with me. I want people to give me the other side of the coin. Use your brain.
I won't disagree with you because I think your Jet fandom has ruined your 1 and 2 picks. I mean, they should be the other way around. So that's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. Joe Montana is not.
That's only
one.
because of the amount of rings.
Great player.
Come on, man.
Not a bad number 1.
You don't have to talk in the top 5.
Do I?
I'm sorry. Say again.
Yeah.
Do I? Yes. Oh, yes. Joe Montana is in my top 5.
He's definitely he's 2 for me. 2.
Keith. Well, Keith's number 1 really is Steve Grogan. He's going to tell you it's Tom Brady, but
I would tell you Steve Grogan in a different yes.
You would. I know you would.
Favorite quarterback. Yeah.
I'll give you one of mine before we go Sunday. Frank Tarkenton. Frank Tarkenton is one of them because I'm a numbers guy. And for his first 40,000 yards and.
You know what?
He didn't win.
Even think of that. You could have also added Johnny Unitas to that.
For his height and everything, he was just impressive for his size.
Yeah.
Well. Let me give you a couple teasers. I go by eras because I think anybody great in one era could play today and still be great. And Tom Brady isn't the only quarterback that won 7 out of 10 championships. So there's a little teaser for you. Joe Montana broke this guy's record for percentage in 1989 for the quarterback rating percentage. That's one of my guys. So I mean, there is again. I mean, you've got to talk about individual stats because wins are team stats, right? I mean, to win 4 Super Bowls, you would say Terry Bradshaw would be in the top 5, and you'd probably be wrong. You'd be wrong. His personal stats don't. But the wins, the Super Bowl wins, when it comes down to splitting hairs, championship wins does count for something. So I mean it's very tough. It is very tough. And again, it comes down to personal opinion, what you think matters more. But anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to CJ for breaking down the NHL for us. James, thanks for jumping in on a basketball and the other conversation. And Keith, just thanks for being here because we're all a little smarter because Keith Engel came on the show today. So
are we? No, you all seem a little smarter. You all seem smarter when I'm on the show, is what you mean to say.
All right, folks. Take care. Stay with Roku. All sports every day, all night. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.